The roadmap for lifting the latest coronavirus lockdown is on its way, but we already know some of the tests Boris Johnson is likely. Speaking on a visit to the Northeast yesterday, the Prime Minister said he was optimistic about the prospects for easing restrictions, but refused to offer any concrete dates or timelines. It's likely the roadmap will involve set targets, points at which the data will suggest it's safer to lift certain restrictions. These are some of the figures likely to be considered. According to infection rates, this is obviously a key factor. But where will they need to be for restrictions to ease? The latest Office for National Statistics (ONS) figures estimate that 1 in 80 people had the virus in the week ending February. In early January, the UK figure was thought to be 1 in 50, with hotspots such as London as high as 1 in. So while numbers have fallen, there are still around 750,000 people carrying the infection at any one time. The Department of Health says there has been a week-on-week fall of 27% in people testing. Yesterday, 13,308 cases were confirmed, again, down from early January, when the daily figure topped 60,000, but still extremely high. In the past, the government has assessed other countries as more risky if they had more than 20 cases per 100,000. For the UK to reach this level, the weekly number of new cases would need to plummet to 1/7 of its current level. So we're still are the figure we've all had to become familiar with. This shows not how many people are currently infected by the rate at which the virus is spreading. If the number is above 1, it means the rate is growing. An R of 1.2, for example, would mean for every 10 infected people there are 12. Latest estimates put the figure between 0.7 and 0.9 in England, meaning that for every 10 infected people, a further 7 to 9 will pick up the virus. It's almost certain R will have to be under 1 for schools to reopen on March 8, but such a reopening is bound to drive the figure back up. So the key question is what level is acceptable for more restrictions. The government has not made a clear statement on this, but it is thought scientists will push for it to be as close to 0 as possible. When should lockdown end and what would you like to see reopen first? Have your say here or fill out our survey below. Mutant strains. The government will need to consider the spread of the faster spreading and, crucially, more vaccine resistance. And if these make up a large proportion of the country's cases, rules are unlikely to be eased. We saw the panic when the Kent variant, which spreads up to 70% faster, was first identified at the end of last year. And surge testing announced over the past 2 weeks reveals that the government is extremely worried about the South African variant, which has now been identified in Teesside, amid questions over how effective vaccines. At the moment, variants containing the E484K mutation, which may evade existing vaccines, account for around 1% of COVID cases, and it is crucial that positivity rates want to get back to large gatherings such as music festivals and sporting events. Then the positivity rate is the figure to keep an eye on, and this measures the percentage of tests coming back positive, and the World Health Organization suggests this should be at 5% for at least 2 weeks before restrictions are eased. It sounds similar to infection rates, but there is an important difference. Positivity rates should be low because you're testing lots of people, most of whom come back negative. A country with a high positivity rate may not be carrying out enough tests, and therefore can't be confident it has an accurate picture of the spread of the disease. Hospital capacity. This has been one of the main justifications for lockdown, because allowing the virus to spread freely could mean hospitals are overwhelmed and can't treat patients adequately, both those with COVID-19 and those with other conditions. The UK's death toll has been catastrophic, but death is not the only bad outcome, with tens of thousands becoming seriously ill and potentially suffering long-term effects. Since the start of the pandemic, nearly 420,000 people have been hospitalized with COVID-19, and on Thursday there were 23,341 patients being treated. But admissions are dropping, with a 25% week-on-week fall. Ministers will again have to decide how much capacity they are comfortable with before easing restrictions. Experts have warned that it will take some time before the impact of vaccines on hospitalizations, so the government will still have to show caution on this front. Vaccination rates. Of course, this will be an incredibly important consideration, and here's where we have some good. The government has hit its target of 15 million first doses of vaccine handed out by February 5. All people in the 4 most vulnerable groups, including those over 70 and those with serious health conditions, should by now have been. However, the vaccines require 2 doses, and the government has made the decision to raise the gap between them to 12. First jabs give a protection level of around 60% against serious illness, which rises to around 90% after the second. With just 0.78% of the population having had both doses, there is a long. Israel says it will not end lockdown until 90% of over 50s are fully. If the UK applies the same standard, it will likely